Hi everyone, thank you so much for tuning in. I meant to send this out last night. I'm so sorry, but my recording never made it to my Google Drive. I don't know if I just didn't hit record or if it's lost somewhere in the internet. So I'm going to make this video again for you today. So I hope that this answers some of your questions, puts your mind at ease, and kind of gives you some information as we are leading to the FSA. I'm going to skip past our meet norms since this is not a live meet. So the objectives of this presentation is to explain to you what the FSA is, what kind of questions your students are going to see, and the grading scale. And we're also going to talk about what are the different ways that students can show proficiency in order to move on to fourth grade. There are several. And then give you some different parent resources and supports that you can be using at home to help partner with us as we are trying to build confidence in our kids and encourage them and get them ready to conquer this big test at the end of the year. So that is our objectives for this time. So we're going to jump right into it. What is the FSA? The FSA stands for Florida Standards Assessment, and it is a suite of reading, writing, and math tests that are designed to measure student performance. And these are tied to the Florida standards, which are the standards that students have been learning since kindergarten. And they outline all of the things that a student should know by the end of third grade. Now, the FSA assesses on several different content areas, but in third grade, they will only assess in reading and math. When they get to fourth grade, they will do writing. When they get to fifth grade, they will do science. And when they get to middle school, they'll have a couple other ones that get thrown in there. But for the purposes of third grade, it is just reading and math. And we will only look at reading to promote to fourth grade. Now, math is still very important, and it helps us place the students correctly in their fourth grade classrooms. But for promotion purposes, in order to go to fourth grade, we will only look at the reading test. So the length of the tests, they are over the course of 2 days. So they will take a reading test on day 1 and 2, math tests on day 1 and 2, and they are 80 minutes long. So the students will test for about 40 minutes, they'll get a break, and then they'll test for another 40 minutes, and that will be the end of each session. So they will do this over the course of 4 days total, but it's broken up so they're not testing all 4 days in a row. So these are very important dates. I want you to go ahead and either jot these down or take a picture of them. These are the days that the students will be testing. So April 6th and 7th will be their reading test, and May 2nd and 3rd will be their math test. So a couple testing day reminders on that. On the day of their test, there will be a campus lockdown beginning at 8:35. So that means that we will not be allowing any tardy students in. We will not be allowing transitions on campus. Parents will not be allowed to come in and volunteer. None of those types of things will be happening on testing days. Now, my counterpart, Nikki Anderson, who's our other coach, is also the also the testing coordinator. And she will be sending out a whole bunch of information in the Warrior Weekly with dates and times for every tested grade level, 3rd through 8th grade. So those are important to know for the days that campus lockdown will occur. But for our purposes, you just need to know April 6th and 7th and May 2nd and 3rd. I do want to talk about this tardy student statement over here. On the day of their test, if the student is tardy, they will not be admitted to the classroom once directions begin. So if I am a 3rd grade student and I arrive at school on April 6th at 8:45, I will not be allowed to go to my classroom. I will have to sit in the front office and wait until the test is finished. And that could be 80 minutes, it could be 90 minutes, depending on how long it takes for directions and breaks and things like that. So very important that on their testing days, they're at school, on time, ready to go. So I wanted to go over some types of questions that your students will see in both reading and math. And they will see the generic multiple choice question where it's just a statement, 4 answers, pretty straightforward. But I wanted to call your attention to some of these other ones because they are unique. So this first one I wanted to talk about, question 12, where it says, how are passages 1 and 2 alike? And so something to note on that, anytime you see passages 1 and 2, we tell our students that means that you will have read a paired text. And a paired text means 2 texts on the same topic. So they might get a nonfiction passage about how seasons change, scientific nonfiction passage, and it might be paired with a poem about the fall leaves. So they'll get some questions about both of those texts separately, but then they'll have probably 2 or 3 where it's asking the students to kind of marry those two texts in their brain and come up with some conclusions and some determinations. So in this case, it's asking them, okay, you've read both of these passages. What is something that's similar in both of them? And they have to kind of figure out, okay, did I learn about how animals communicate? Nope, not in this one. Did I learn how animals work as a team? Yes, I did. Did I learn it in both passages? Yes, I did. So we've been teaching them some different text marking strategies and test taking strategies to help them with pair text, but I just wanted you to be aware of that's the type of question that they might see. Over to the right-hand side are Part A and Part B questions, and these we have been working on since September, so the students should feel very well versed in answering a Part A and a Part B question. Part A and Part B are very important because they are multiple point questions, so they're big bucket items as we talk to the kids about that. The one thing you need to note about a Part A and a Part B is, in order to get full credit for Part B, they have to get Part A correct. So Part A is generally a question about the text. It might be about the setting. It might be about a character's actions, motivations. It might be like a plot point. And then Part B is generally followed up with either quotes from the text, and it will say which sentence supports your answer to Part A, or like in this case, it asks them, okay, what happens next? So you've got this happening in the text, then what? Or what happened immediately before it? So Part A always has to connect with Part B always connects with Part A. So it's very important that they take their time to make sure that they answer Part A correctly so that they can answer Part B and get full credit for those points. And last but not least, in that bottom left-hand corner, this is called an editing task. So there's two different ways that they'll see this. The first way is this way, where it will give them the question, where in this one it says fill in the circle before the sentence that shows why the man believes his cheese can bring themselves to market. So they're just looking for the evidence piece in the text. So it's saying, okay, the man believes his cheese can bring themselves to market. Where does it tell me this in the passage? So they just read this and say, okay, this is the letter, and I'm going to bubble it in. This is the sentence that tells me that they can take themselves to the market. They might also see it where they get a sentence with an underlined word in it. And when they get to the underlined word, it will ask them, okay, is the underlined word correct in this sentence, or should it be switched out with one of these words? And it might be 3 different words, or it might be the same word spelled differently, maybe with a different location for the apostrophe, or is there a comma after the word? So it kind of hits on several different skills there with grammar and spelling and things like that. They will probably see one of those in their test. But it is something I want you to be aware of, and it's something that we've been practicing. So that's reading. And then these are the types of questions that they might see in math. So the first one, very straightforward, multiple choice, but it gives them a blank. So what is the value of the unknown number? They just have to solve that real quick and answer that. In that top right corner where it says select all, I want to talk a little bit about that. When it says select all, that should automatically tell our students there is more than one correct answer. So sometimes that means there's 2, sometimes that means there's 3, sometimes that means all 5 of them are correct. So we have been teaching them, anytime you see select all, circle the word all, and then that should tell you you need to check every single answer choice. You cannot just stop at the first answer choice and move on. You need to check all of them. For instance, in this example, if they stop at letter A, they're leaving an answer choice farther down that is also correct, blank, and so they will not get full credit on this question. So anytime you see select all, that should be their reminder that check all of the answers. And then these last two are ones that I would highly encourage practicing at home. We are practicing them at school, but this is generally the ones that kind of confuse our kids, not because of the question, but because of how they're asking them to answer. So I wanted to talk through them real quick. In the bottom left-hand corner, that is called a graphic response. So in this question is asking them to match the number to the rounded to the nearest 10. So you've got the numbers across the top, numbers down the side, and they have to have an answer in every single row. So by the time they're done with this graphic response, they should have 3 answer choices bubbled. Generally, they will see it in this type of question where it's a rounding question. Sometimes they might see it where it's shapes, and that's asking them to sort and categorize the shapes. But they will see these graphic responses on there. And then also in this bottom right-hand corner, these are called gridded responses. So this is their way of doing kind of like a short answer response in math. So it gives them an open-ended question. They have to solve it, and then they have to go in and write down their answer. Whenever they write down their answer, their first number should be in the farthest left column. So in this case, they're doing 20 boxes of markers. Each box contains 5 markers. How much do they have in total? 20 times 5 gives me 100. So my 1 should be in the farthest left column. I would put a 1, I would bubble the 1, and then so on and so forth all the way down the column. Those trip up our students all the time, even though we practice them nonstop in the classroom. So if you are looking for stuff that you can partner with at home, these two types of questions would be ones I would encourage you to look at. Okay, now for the fun part, talking about the grading. So what will happen is each, we'll take the test, we'll send it off to state, they will grade it, and each question is worth a certain amount of points. They are not all equally weighted the same amount of points. And we have no way of knowing how much each question is worth. Like, is question 3 worth 3 points and 7 is worth 10 points? We have no idea. So they go through, they rank all the things, grade it, they give it a scaled score, and then they attribute the scaled score to a level. So what we are looking for on our end is students to get levels 2, 3, 4, and 5. If a student gets a 2, a 3, a 4, or a 5, they will move on to 4th grade. Now, I want to call your attention to a level 2. Level 2 is still considered below grade level. So that does not mean that they're testing on the 3rd grade level, but it means that they are testing close enough that they think that they can still be successful in 4th grade. 3, 4, and 5 will be above on grade level and above grade level. Now, if they get a level 1, that means they did not show enough proficiency on 3rd grade standards in order to move on to 4th grade, and they have to spend another year in 3rd grade. But the one really good thing about it is we recognize, and the state recognizes, that this test can be very stressful for kids. Maybe they wake up, they have a bad test day, maybe they didn't sleep well the night before, and they just do not perform their best. Well, there are several other ways for them to show their proficiency and show what they know in order to move on to 4th grade. So if your student gets a level 1, there are other ways that they can move on to 4th grade. So 2, 3, 4, and 5 is what we are shooting for. Now, what are those avenues to 4th grade? So number 1, we've talked about, you can pass the FSA. That is by far the easiest. They just take a test over 2 days, done, get a 2, 3, 4, or 5. The other ways are a little bit more arduous, a little bit more work for the kids, but they can do it. So the other way that they can do is to attend summer reading camp, and this is by invitation only. And in summer reading camp, they will complete what's called the portfolio assessment. The portfolio assessment is a series of texts that the students read and answer questions on. And it goes per standard of 3rd grade. They have to do this with 3 texts for each standard, which means at the end of the portfolio, they will have taken 45 assessments. So it is very long and very arduous process. In the past, Mrs. Stewart, our wonderful 2nd grade teacher, has taught summer reading camp and has organized it so well and knows exactly what the kids need to do. I am not sure if she's teaching it again this year, so I don't want to put that out there. But summer reading camp, by invitation only, they will complete the portfolio assessment. That is another way they can move on to 4th grade. And then the third way, you can have the students pass on star reading with a percentile ranking of 50 or higher. Now, percentile ranking is on a scale of 0 to 99. So they go right smack dab in the middle and say, okay, every student that gets a 50 or higher on their PR can move on to 4th grade. That shows that they know their 3rd grade stuff, okay? Now, every single 3rd grader will take their star reading at the end of the year. So as long as they get a PR of 50 or higher, they will move on to 4th grade, no problem, okay? Also, the kids that are invited to summer reading camp will take star reading at the end of summer reading camp. So they actually have 2 opportunities in summer reading camp to show their understanding of 3rd grade through the portfolio and through STAR. So several different avenues to get to 4th grade. Again, by far the easiest is just to pass the FSA and be done with it. All right, so ways you can help at home. So a couple different ways that you can partner with us. Definitely get your child into a routine. This is actually one of the test taking strategies that we go over with our students is how can you be prepared? Making sure you're going to bed on time, making sure you have a good nighttime routine, and having a good breakfast in the morning. Fill up your belly, wake your brain up, and give you some energy for the morning. So these are ways that you can partner with us. And also, side note, we have free breakfast and lunch throughout the end of the school year. So There's several, if you're busy in the morning, it's crazy, you can't always get breakfast to the students, send them here, we'll feed them. So that'll be great. Get your child into a routine. The next way is something that is so special that I love that we do here for our third graders. And this is something that actually I started way back when I was still a classroom teacher in third grade. This is something that myself and my team at the time developed. So I'm so happy that they're still doing this. So this is actually secret. So students, if you're watching, look away or pause and let your students walk away. But you will get this information after we return from spring break. You'll get a letter and you'll get 4 envelopes. And what we're going to ask you to do is to write a little encouraging note, put it in the envelope, seal it, send it back to your child's teacher. Each day of the test, the students will get an envelope right before they take their test, and they're able to open it and read it. And it just, the smiles on their faces, they're so excited to read their notes because it fills up their love bucket. They see, they're like, oh my gosh, my mom wrote me this note. She's thinking about me. Just a nice little encouraging note real quick to start, give them that extra boost right before their test. In the past, we've had grandma and grandpa from out of state have written a note. And that's super special. We've had big brothers and big sisters, or little brothers and little sisters, or aunts or uncles or cousins or neighbors or whoever, but just people that are important and special to your child, writing a quick little note, putting it in that envelope, and it just really helps give them that last bit of encouragement and confidence going into the test. So that is something super special. So be on the lookout for that after spring break. And then this is already happening, or it will start to happen if it hasn't already, but start reviewing the FSA practice materials that your student's teacher is sending home. And that does not mean you have to sit and go through every single question. What that could look like is, maybe they're in aftercare and they're working on it, and you get home, or you have sports practice or whatever, and you just take 10 minutes at the end of your day and say, hey, show me one of your questions that you struggled with, and let's look at that together, and let's go back in the text, or let's rework this math problem together. And let's see if we can figure out why you're not understanding. Or show me a question that you crushed it. You did so good. And what was your strategy? Like, how did you know that this was the answer? And just have that quick conversation, because that helps them know, hey, mom and dad, we're keyed in on what's happening, and we know what's going on in your classroom. And then it also helps the kids talk it out and say, hey, I really did a really great job, or hey, I'm really so confused on this. And that can help you communicate with your teacher as well. So make sure you look at those practice materials when they come home. And last but not least, we have this website. It is called www.fsassessments.org. If you click on state assessments, there is a students and families tab. And I think you have to scroll down a little bit, but there are tons of different materials on there, more information about the test, things like that. So, all of those are really great ways that you can help partner with us at home and get them ready and confident for the test. Now, we say to our kids all the time, we prepare you by teaching you these Florida standards. You know exactly what you need to know. We are not, teaching you for the test. We are teaching you to be able to read a text and analyze it and pick it apart and understand what you are reading. We teach you how to do these math problems so that when you get into the real world, you can function as a citizen. So this is not stuff that we are just drilling into them to get them prepared for the test. They are so well prepared by the time they get to the test that it's really just a time for them to show what they know. So these are things that we tell our kids. We have a big pep rally with them and get them pumped up for it. But we try and make this as less stress as we can. This is just an opportunity for them to show what they know, and that is it. So ways that you can help at home, these are all great, but just simply encouraging your kids and building that confidence in them that you've got this, you know what you need to know, and you're going to rock this test, are all really great ways. All right, last but not least, so this was our open time of general questions in our live session. So obviously, since this is recorded, I want you to jot down my email. It's courtney.flood@imagineschools.org. If you have any questions at all over anything that I went over, or if you have a specific question pertaining to your child, I would love to help partner with you and answer that for you. If I cannot answer that, I know who can. So I will either answer it or I will point you in the direction of the person that can. So I know that was a lot of information, and oh my goodness, I almost talked for 20 minutes. I'm a talker, so sorry for being so long-winded, but I hope that answered some of your questions and helped you get a little bit more at ease in your brain over what is coming up in the next couple of weeks. So please reach out to me if you have any questions. I hope you have a great day.